So, hello everyone, we are live. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Google Workspace and Chrome Enterprise Security Virtual Summit. We are observants and we have Dan here and also Charlie from our team. So we are looking forward to listening the presentation today. Just a little bit of overview. So I'm based in the Czech Republic and deal with European training. So please feel free to contact me in case of any interest or questions. Also, you can see Dan, he oversees it from Prague as well. So maybe Dan, would you like to give us a bit more details and overview?
Yeah, thanks, Monica. I'm Dan. I'm the founder of Apps Events. We're a Google partner, and we've been a Google partner now since 2011. So for 9 years, this is going out in November 2020, if you're watching it in the future. And we're a Google PD partner, which means we focus on training for schools, basically. But we've also got much more interest in training for technical training for G Suite admin, for Google Cloud, for schools and businesses. So hopefully we're going to cover a few more of these topics. And please, if you're interested or need any help and anything to do with Google, get in touch. We're experts in everything from training teachers, from training staff members to training businesses as well.
Thank you so much, Jen. Hello, Charlie. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I'm Charlie Love, and I've got a background really in deployment of Google Workspace and working with in education as well, in deployment and using Google tools there. Kind of a mixture of an educator and a technical background. And today what I'm hoping to do is take you through a variety of aspects of G Suite security, Google Workspace security, and some of the great benefits of having that environment deployed.
Thank you so much, Charlie. So before we get into that, I want to talk a bit about Acer. Thanks to our great partnerships with Acer, we are able to run these free events. So thank you so much. We really appreciate this cooperation. We are Acer Chromebook users, huge fans, and fully recommend them. So maybe Dan, would you like to also tell us a bit more about our great partnership with Acer?
Yeah, I think you've said everything there, Veronica. Just to say, I mean, Chromebooks. I use Chromebook. I use it for work. I use it at home. We have Chromebooks as well. They're a great device today. The ideal device for schools. If you haven't considered them, take a look. I especially like the Spin 11. It's a convertible device, which means you can use it as a tablet or as a laptop. They're pretty indestructible. Dual-facing camera. As two cameras as well. You can use it tent mode, laptop mode, tablet mode. So please check out Chromebooks. Also businesses, more and more businesses are using Chromebooks now. It's getting more popular because of the ease of administration. We might mention this a bit, but if you've ever provisioned a bunch of Windows devices or Macs and then moved to Chromebook, you can do it all online. It's night and day how simple it is. So huge thanks to Acer. I won't say too much, but check them out. They're great devices. And we've got a link here. Please fill in the form and someone from Acer will contact you if you're looking for Chromebooks.
Thank you so much, Dan. So I will keep this link here for a bit longer, just that people can register and submit this survey. Thank you so much. Also, I would like to switch here. If you want to be social and share information about this free summit, so feel free to use these hashtags and so on. Thank you. Also, we would like to say that we are also ISTE partner. So in case of any interest, feel free to contact Dan or myself again. Dan, would you like to add any more details or can I go further?
Yeah, not much. We're running the ISTE Certified Educator. If people watching this in the UK probably don't know much about ISTE, but it's huge in America. It's huge in international schools. It's all about pedagogy-based technology and education. It's not specific to any platform. It's an amazing set of standards. And if you do this certification, it's got two great benefits. It really helps enhance the use of technology in your school. And it's a huge thing for your CV or resume. So check it out.
Thank you so much. So also you can see important links. So feel free to join our videos and also international podcast run by Dan. And also you can check our Chrome admin and enterprise channel, YouTube channel. So feel free to watch our videos run by Charlie Love. So, Charlie, I will give you space and you can start your presentation back then. Thank you so much. And I will switch to presentation.
Thanks, Veronica.
Okay. So really today we're going to take you through some aspects of Google Workspace security and just some of the key features that are available in the environment to protect you, protect your data, protect your customers, and just really wrap up the whole security solution for you. As an administrator, I find the security features of Google Workspace to be, sector leading in terms of the security that they provide you for your data, and all that from a cloud managed platform, which is impressive. So, if you just want to talk a little bit about these particular tools that are available, you've got login challenges. So this is when you can add additional challenges to for your login, a bit of additional user-based factors that you can use when you sign in. So if the environment sees you signing in from somewhere that you don't normally sign in, it's not a trusted place that you sign in from, you can get challenges sent to a mobile device. You can set up the system with employee IDs, so you can ask someone for an employee ID, or you can use a recovery email address. So there's some real multiple factors there that you can use in terms of protecting your environment.
Just remember, as an admin, you can set the security level. So you can say if you're going to enforce two-step verification, you can say if it's going to be optional, or you're just going to have login challenges. So or even I think you mentioned hardware devices, Charlie, as well. You can even use to go one step further.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got a little video about the hardware devices in a second or two, just to following up from just that. But the two-step verification is really interesting because if you're setting that up for the first time as an admin, a couple of things that you need to know about. I'll just jump into a quick demo just to share some of that. So if you're setting up two-factor authentication, the first thing that you do, this is the Google admin console for a test domain that I have set up. And if you go into security, I'm going to have to authenticate, so I'll just do that off the screen. Yep. Oh, back in. So this is my security area of the admin console, and I have the option here around two-step verification. Now I have two-step verification turned on for this domain, and as part of the preparation for today, one of the things that I needed to set up on this domain was that you need to allow users to turn on two-step verification before you deploy that out to all your users. And why do you need to do that? Because you as the admin need to be the first one that signs up for the two-factor authentication. So once you set this up, allow users to turn on two-step verification, I don't have this enforced, but I have it allowed, so users can turn it on if they wish at the moment. And that's because I, as the admin, had to register and set up my own two-factor authentication before I let all my users do it. So now that I have that set up, I would be able to enforce the two-step verification, or I could do a bit of communication to users and say, well, from Friday this week, you will all have to have the two-step verification set up. And it can be set up in a wide variety of options. And you do that, you can do that within your My Account setting. So this is my account setting for this test domain. And what we have here is I have a variety of prompts that I can use. I've got set up here a phone, authenticator app. So that's the Google Authenticator app as a two-factor that I can use. I have a backup telephone number, and I have backup codes, which are one-use codes.
The Authenticator app, I highly recommend it. So the Google Authenticator app generates random codes. I use it. Remember, this is a great app, not just for your Google Workspace account. It's actually compatible with many other websites, anyone that integrates with Google. So I have a bunch of codes to log into different things. And remember, it's much safer than using SMS or text message. SMSs can be spoofed and redirected, and it's a lot easier to intercept them. So if you're looking for an extra level of security and a very simple to use app, I'd highly recommend the Authenticator.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Authenticator app's great thing to use, and you can use that when it supports two-factor authentication on multiple platforms, not just Google, but as Dan says, a whole range of different things that you can use it for. So you've got some various options here around two-step verification. You can give a bit of a grace period for users to say, you've got to get it set up within 2 weeks of getting a new account. You can decide whether or not you want to allow users to have a trusted device, where they don't get repeated requests for the two-step verification. That depends on the sensitivity of the data that you're handling and the judgment you want to make around your security. But you can set that up. It may be that you've got people who work more mobilely than others. For those, you might want to keep it on, but for those that are kind of office-based or at the moment always working from their own home, you might leave that to allow them to have a trusted device that they can use at home. And you can specify the types of methods that you can have in that as well. And there's also options here around generating kind of one-time use security codes as well. So when you set up two-step verification, you've got these options within security to do that. And then once you have it set up and enforced, you then have options through your users. I'll just pop over here and leave that. So if I go into a user account, let me just go into a demo one here. In this user account at the moment, this is switched, it's turned off, as you can see. Now, if I go into my account that I'm using at the moment, I'll see that I have some more controls around that two-step verification. So if I go in here, you can see that it's not enforced, but it is turned on. I can control that. So if you get users that forget or can't access whatever devices they've set up for their two-factor authentication, the two-step verification, you can turn it off for a period of time to let the user re-enroll. And you can get backup codes, which allow that user to do a kind of one-time sign-in as well. So you've got some controls there as an admin around that two-step verification that you can use to manage access to your Google Workspace environment. Okay. So that's just a little bit, and we'll maybe just dip into kind of the admin console just as we go through this, just as it seems appropriate, just as we go. So yeah, so that's the kind of two-step verification. And in terms of, that security in the cloud, you've got that full user management, not based on premise, but all based in the cloud through the Google admin console. So as you saw there, I was able to go into a user's account and see a variety of pieces of information about their account and so on. So another useful factor is that by default, when you deploy Google Workspace, it has a session length of 2 weeks, 14 days, I think it is. And now, for those of you not technically minded, a session length is how long your login lasts for. So once you sign in to the environment, how long does it keep you live in that environment before it kicks you out and asks you to re-authenticate? So as a enterprise, you probably want to bring that down probably to every day. And you can shorten that session length in the admin console. So just to show you that, as I said there, this again, it's in security. And what I've got is this option around Google session control. And here I've got it set to 14 days. I can bring that down to an hour, to 4 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours. I think 24 hours is typically a good period of time for people working in an office kind of environment, an enterprise environment. But you can shorten that and say they've got to sign it. If you're dealing with lots of secure information, you can shorten that down to you've got to have a login every hour to access that data.
What have you done with schools, Charlie, when you've been working with school admins?
Well, I think with school admins, what I would say is, again, bring it down to 24 hours, because particularly at this time when many schools are working remotely with young people working from home, And in that situation, you can actually use the sign in here as almost kind of as a well-being check, that check that kids are signing in at home, that they are using the environment, and you can force that sign in every 24 hours, and then you can check that individuals have signed in. That, so you can bring it down to that 20 every day. There's been activity on that young person's account or on that teacher's account, so you can see them logging in and signing in every day. And you can actually build, if you're using Google Data Studio and some app script, you can actually build a dashboard that shows you those logins to give you a bit of analytics around it.
Great.
Yeah, so you can change that session length, and again, having that session length controlled gives you some kind of a bit more control over the security of your environment. When people have been logging in and they've got to how soon they've got to re-authenticate to get in there. And also with Workspace, with the enterprise editions of Workspace, you have some additional controls around security of data. So, for example, if you store and process credit card details, you can set a credit card data type and specify rules around how that data can be shared. So there's some restrictions that you can put in place around data sets or types of data that are stored within your Google Workspace environment, which again gives you that more security in the cloud there. This was just a slide just to show you some of the options within that security area that I showed you a bit earlier. Inside that security space, you've got some options around basic settings. You've got password strength and such. There's some password monitoring tools so that you look at individual passwords that are set up and their strength, what's available, password length, and so on. And you've got set up single sign-on. So if you want to use a third-party authentication tool, you've got your own identity provider that's already set up for your enterprise, then you can set that up so that it allows you to sign in to your Google Workspace environment. So as we mentioned there, Dan, a little bit about keys, the physical keys. And so there's a variety of physical keys that you can get that work with Google Workspace. And these keys, you can purchase these keys and then use them in a device. So I'll just play this little video just to show you a little bit about how that works. Hopefully that will play the sound too.
Yeah, I think the sound isn't coming through, Charlie. I think we get the idea of what's happening. Get the code.
Did that play the audio? No,
it didn't. But I think it's fine.
Okay.
I mean, as you were saying, Charlie, it's basically it's a hardware device. It's an extra level above using SMS text message or using the Google Authenticator app. It's a hardware device. Someone's actually physically got to have control of this hardware, and people typically put on a keyring or something and carry it with them. You never, in schools, you're never going to use this for students. That would be a one-way ticket to hell to do something like that, I think. But it is possible to do it for staff members and businesses. If you've got any kind of secure data, it is an extra check.
Yeah, and you can use that and you can deploy that without a password. It's the physical key signs you into the account. And when you have those physical keys, what you've also got the ability to do from the admin console is you can, because people lose these things, you can revoke that access for that particular key. So you can take that away and remove that access and allow users to sign in with an alternative method for a period of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Dan, do you want to say a little bit about?
Yeah, I mean, I think I pretty much mentioned this at the beginning. Just to say again, thanks to Acer for sponsoring this event, allowing us to run it for free. Check out Acer Chromebooks, great devices. I think that's enough.
Okay, grand. So next a little bit, we'll just talk maybe about some of the Workspace applications, and we'll maybe have a little look into maybe Google Drive admin, Gmail admin, and have a look at those just for kind of just a bit of a look at. Okay, so in terms of Google Drive, what folks really should know is this proactive scanning goes on for all of your file types inside Google Drive, irrespective of what they are. It will proactively scan them for malware. There are some file size restrictions on that, but you'll get notified of those if you encounter them for very large files. But there's that proactive scanning that gives you a bit of kind of reassurance that all of Google's data that they've got around malware, around threats, to security threats, all of that is being used and leveraged to support workspace users, giving them that level of security that you would get. You don't need, we haven't mentioned this yet, but on Chrome OS devices, you don't need additional security because the device is inherently secure, and we'll come on to that in a little bit. But your data is also pretty much inherently secure because all of that scanning proactively is going on in the cloud, and that's happening for you. So that's really, that's a really useful thing to know about. And another one there is just, when you share files, if you have infected content, if you've got infected content, you'll be prevented from sharing that further. So you can't pass things on if they've got a problem with those files, can't email them on, and so on. And within Gmail, you've got a range of advanced kind of phishing and malware protection that's built in. So it'll recognize suspicious emails, harmful software and malware that's attached. And there's that kind of spam, anti-spam is in there as well. And there's banners that pop up to warn you about particular content as well as you go through. So I haven't really, I think maybe we just have a little look. I'm just going to go into talk a little bit about apps, perhaps. So what I have here is, this is a Google Workspace environment, and I've just gone into the apps area from there. Let me just go back to home there to show you. So I'm just going into apps here. And I think it might be, these are the Google Workspace kind of core services, which would include Drive, include Gmail, and so on. And if I pop into Gmail, this allows you to control all of the features of Gmail that you need to from the admin side. So what interesting thing here is that you can obviously with security now we set up email authentication, so that's DKIM, that you set that up there. But you can set up some email and spam safety features. So how do we protect users? And so there's a range of options here that you can switch on. So we've got these attachments. This is all this handling is on by default. Here I've got some links and external images, identify links, and there's a range of security options here that I've got switched on. I don't have untrusted domains, a show warning prompt. I don't have that switched on at the moment, so I could just edit that and show that warning. So if I've got untrusted domain endpoints that I haven't explicitly trusted in my security settings, then I can display a warning. And then there's a range of options here, again, for spoofing and about authentication that you can set up. And again, you can go in here and just do some edits there around your Gmail configuration. So there's a range of things that you can set up. This is a training environment. This just hasn't got a few users on it, so it's not set up like an enterprise, but you would go in here and you would protect against, spoofing of your domain, spoofing of employee names and such. You would try and protect against all of those particular features in your setup.
I think, as Charlie mentioned, I mean, even if you do nothing, that the standard security settings, like the anti-malware settings in Drive, the anti-spam and malware settings in Gmail are pretty good anyway. Even just because you can't turn those off. They're always there. You wouldn't want to turn them off, but the general. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't think I've been using Gmail like 15 years, I guess now, and I don't think I've had any malware that I can think of come through or in Drive.
Yeah, I'm Craig. I'd be about the same, and I have not had any bad experiences with using Gmail for either as a consumer or within an enterprise environment. It does the business. It's it's good that way. Absolutely. One more thing that I'll show you just around when we're talking about security and we're talking about Gmail. In terms of settings, you've got some control about the content that you allow through, and you can set up some quarantines, and these are really rules that allow you to trust attachments or add. For example, I've got in here or have rude words. Maybe you have it in your enterprise. Certainly within education spaces, you would have certain phrases that would not be appropriate for people to use in emails. So you can actually set up quarantines to intercept that content before it leaves your network or before it comes in. So before it leaves the inboxes or leaves your domain rather, and goes out to be sent, or as it comes in, you can quarantine that content. You could send it to have it somewhere where you're going to hold it, or send it to or reject it, or send a reject message. So here what I've got is a rude words quarantine. And what happens is if I have any content that matches that particular quarantine, I'm going to send a rejection message, and I'm going to send a rejection message, whether it's inbound coming into my network, into my G Suite domain, my workspace domain, or if it's going out, I'm going to reject that message and let the user know that that's been rejected.
And this is something that's used a lot in schools, obviously. And if you search online, you can get databases of rude words, it gets more, especially international schools. I've seen these lists, and they'll have multiple languages. It can get a bit crazy at a certain point, but yeah, definitely widely used in schools.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is something that you need to be careful with. I mean, a true story. At one point I had XX in a block list, and actually it was really ended up being pretty much a false positive all the time, because people put two kisses at the end of their emails, Yeah. So that's just one of the things. So you kind of got to be careful around what words and what word lists you use to ban and to block content, and to do that. And there is an admin quarantine that you can go to. This is kind of admin quarantines section, where you can sort of administer the content that you've got that's been flagged up in those quarantines and such. Okay. Grand. So that's just a little bit extra around the kind of Gmail add-ons, the kind of what's built into your Google Workspace, some of the additional tools that you can use. Another tool that's really more of it's a security and retention tool, an investigation tool for your enterprise, and really, really useful in education settings where often you might have to investigate incidents, find out about bullying, for example, of students, or find out what content students have been sending between each other via email or via chat. And that's Google Vault. And Vault is an e-discovery tool, and it's exceptionally powerful because Vault essentially archives everything from Google Drive, everything from Gmail, and everything from chat, and archives that content subject to your data retention rules. So you'll be aware under GDPR within European Union, UK, you set up a retention scheme, how long you want to hold data for by default. And then what Vault allows you to do is to investigate incidents and retain data potentially for longer than that period where it's appropriate to an investigation, or to hold data for a particular time.
Yeah, and just as I've worked with schools and businesses that have used this, and for example, there's like an unfair dismissal case or a bullying case for a school, and the legal team will say, I need all emails from this person to this person in this time range, and there's a lot of, you can filter everything and download it and give it to the lawyers or whatever. So you've got a lot of granularity on how you filter the information before you download it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a very, very powerful tool. And I think what maybe do is we'll come back to that, and maybe in a future video or a future summit, maybe just to go through that in a bit more detail, because it's a really powerful investigative tool, and it does allow you to set up. I mean, I'll just show you very briefly. You can set up your default retention schedules. Now, this is the test environment that I have, just to show that that's not set up currently. But this is the eDiscovery tool. This is Vault, and it's available on ediscovery.google.com, which is its endpoint. And if you're an authorized administrative user with access to it, you'll be able to carry out operations, search for data, set retention schedules and such within this environment. But you can set default rules. So for example, if I came in here for mail, let's say I wanted to keep all email for, let's say 3 years, or let's say a year. So I might say 365 days from when the message was sent. And I'm only going to remove messages that the user's already deleted from my archive. You as the user might delete your email, empty your bin, but we'll still have it as an enterprise in our retention. So I could say here that I'm going to hold data for a year after that message was sent, and I'm only going to get rid of data that's already been deleted. So if you're holding on to your email, you would still have that message. But if you haven't deleted it, you'd still have it. Or I can be a bit more aggressive with my retention schedule and say, I'm going to delete, we're not going to hold any data in email past those number of days, those 365 days, and so on. So that's, it's really important to set up your data retention rules appropriately, to have them set up for the different types of data that you hold, because that'll be part of your GDPR approach with your enterprise, with your school. It'll be part of your data retention approach there. And it's important that you have these rules set up, but both to ensure that you're not holding data longer than you need it, because remember, the rules are you only hold the data for as long as you genuinely require it, but it also clears out your the data that you have stored and removes that data that you no longer require. So it does that proactively. And you can set that retention schedule for, as I say, mail, Drive, groups, and chat. And as you know, Google Meet, there you can set rules there as well. Grand. So that's a little bit about data retention and kind of within that kind of eDiscovery tool there.
Great.
Okay, a little bit more about just another showing you Chromebooks from our partner Acer. I have the 713 Chromebook, which is just awesome enterprise Chromebook, really great. It's got a fingerprint security scanner in it for signing in, so it's just absolutely brilliant. So I do thoroughly recommend them.
Yeah, I would like to play a short video if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's a quick one.
Brilliant. So,
So,
yeah, perfectly timed, because that's a fantastic Chromebook. That is really just a brilliant device.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, so just as we're talking about devices and device security, just an option just to begin here, talk about Chrome OS, Chrome devices, and really why they are probably, well, without doubt, to be honest, one of the best options for enterprises in these times. And we've seen amazing growth in terms of Chrome devices over the last kind of 6 to 8 months. You might know that, I mean, I think Chrome sales are up 122% since the kind of start of the year. And I think a lot of that is down to enterprises and schools moving towards Chrome OS devices for their technology needs. And one of the great things about that really is that with a Chrome OS device, what you have is an inherently secure device right from the very beginning. Chrome devices are engineered in partnership between manufacturers and Google, and they're built to those baseline specifications that Google have that are secure. And there's Chrome devices are designed from the ground up to be absolutely secure in terms of how they handle and manage your data, how they run applications, and even the hardware, the firmware in the machine. All of that is secure. So they are incredibly powerful devices. We've seen a whole range of different Chromebook specifications, from the kind of more entry-level ones for education end users, right up to enterprise-grade, high processor, fantastic HD screens, whole range of different devices that we've seen. But they all have this inherently secure environment that is really, absolutely essential for any modern enterprise.
Yeah, interesting story about Chromebooks. I mean, obviously we've got some Acer Chromebooks around, and we've always been using Chromebooks at home. And I got a MacBook Air, and I took it home. And my wife, like after a few days using it, she just said, "I want to go back to Chromebook," and she just ditched it. I just brought it back to the office, and she just uses Chromebook because she was so used to it. And she just found a Mac to be hard to use after using the Chromebook for 2 years.
It's just that I just find it's the simplicity of the device. The device just works. You've got a browser, plus you've got all those cloud-based tools, and you have application tools. Because don't forget, and as many people do, a Chromebook will work offline. You can set it up and use it offline, and you can still be productive with that Chromebook, even though you're not connected all the time. Yeah. So yeah, it's a really, really powerful device. So I suppose in terms of just looking at some of those Chrome OS features that are really important to an enterprise, is that everything on the Chromebook's encrypted, and it's encrypted through their security modules within the Chromebook that are tamper resistant, and it's built so every layer of the Chrome device is from the security, the tamper-resistant security modules, the operating system, right through to the applications that you use. All of that is absolutely secure. And that encryption is across the whole device. So even if I log in on a Chromebook and then someone else comes and logs in on that same device, and their data is stored in the device and my data is stored in the device, we can't read each other's data. It's not possible because that data is it's all encrypted and locked to those particular users. So you can't read it. There are tools in place on a Chromebook to prevent operating system tampering. So that's a way that you can manipulate the operating system to gain access to people's files. And people do it all the time on Windows. It's a hack on Windows, and people do that. And in other operating systems like Linux and such as well. With a Chromebook, it has this really great unique feature, which is that on a Chromebook, there are 2 copies of the operating system. And people are always surprised when you tell them this, right? There's 2 copies? Well, there are 2 different copies of the operating system. And it has 2 really, really powerful features as a result of that. The first is that Chromebooks, all Chrome devices update seamlessly in the background. So while you're working away on the device, in the background, if there's an update to the Chrome operating system, it will just filter onto the device and use the stored operating system and update the stored operating system that you're not currently using. So you'll be using 1 copy for your work, but this other latent copy that's sitting on the drive will be updated in the background while you're working. So the next time you switch on your Chromebook, it will boot up into the new version of the operating system, and update the one that you were previously. So both versions will become the same, but it'll all happen seamlessly in the background while you're using the device. But the other thing that it does is that it provides you great security, because Chrome OS, when it boots up, it checks the operating system. There are algorithms that it uses to check that the operating system, check digits and such, that it uses to verify that the operating system is intact and it hasn't been changed and hasn't been manipulated somehow to compromise your device. And if it's in any way unsure of the operating system, it won't boot that potentially damaged or vulnerable operating system. It'll boot the other version. And so it'll use that version and then fix the problem on the other operating system when you start your device. So that inherently gives you an extra layer of security. So even if one copy of your operating system is damaged or corrupted or has been interfered with, the other will still boot and restore your Chromebook back to its desired condition, which is uninfected and working and not damaged. So that prevention of OS tampering is really important, and that two versions of the OS is a real great feature in terms of your security. And remember, this all happens in the background. So if you're the admin for an enterprise, you're not having to go and physically go to a device and sit down and install the operating system or pull the operating system across from put in a bootable USB and pull the operating system across. You don't have to touch the device. I mean, I have deployed probably about 12,000 Chromebooks, and a handful of those, only a handful of those ever need any kind of physical intervention during their kind of admin period. Those devices can come if you work with an OEM or if you work with a supply partner with Google. They will actually provision the devices for you. So you can actually have a zero-touch deployment of Chrome devices, which is really interesting. They'll add them to your domain. You buy the enterprise management license or enterprise management upgrade for your devices, and then you can control them all from the cloud. Zero touch. That's amazing. Great feature.
Just have a question here from Karen Cleveland. Any concerns or reason for qualms with using Google facing antitrust scrutiny and fines from European regulators? I'm not an expert on this topic. I don't know, Charlie might have more. From what I know, Google has had various cases with the European Union. They seem to be around the dominance of Google, the search engine, and also things to do with advertising. None of this, as far as I'm aware, at least, has any connection to using G Suite and also to using Chromebooks. Like the advertising, there's no advertising. So when you use G Suite, the business version or the school version, there's obviously no ads on there anyway. That kind of stuff doesn't happen. It's not connected to the Google search engine. So I don't think personally there is. I don't think there's any chance of Google going away. I don't think Google's got any kind of monopoly in cloud storage or in Gmail. But again, I'm not a lawyer, not an expert. I don't know if you've got anything to add, Charlie.
I would I would agree with that kind of observation. I think a lot of it's about search, and I think a bit of it is about the Android and how Android works and the arrangements around that. But we're talking here about Google's cloud platform and Google's services piece, which is around Workspace. And both of those areas are really, really, really competitive. There's a whole range of different corporations who offer, services in that space, and it is a very competitive market. So I don't think this, as you said, Dan, I don't think it's going to affect these services that we're looking at. There may be other impacts, but it's not going to affect these particular services that we have. Sure. Grand. Okay, so I was just going to mention very quickly, in terms of your Chrome Enterprise, again, one of the things that's great for security is that if you've got a Chrome device, where's your data? Your data is in the cloud. So your data is not on the device, and it's only on the device while you're working with it, while you're operating with it, and it syncs up into the cloud. And you can, if you are as an admin want to have even more control around your devices, then you can actually set the Chromebook up in such a way that it will wipe whenever the user signs off. So it goes back to a pristine condition. When the user signed off, all the data about that user just is removed. So you've got that additional bit of security. And as I mentioned right at the beginning, all the data is encrypted in a user's data position. So that encryption is there. I mentioned a little bit about patches and updates because that comes through all the time. It's a kind of 6-week program for patches and updates on Chrome OS. Again, that's a really, really important piece around just you kind of managing the environment as an admin. As an admin, you don't really need to do very much here because those updates will happen if you leave them as scheduled. They will just happen seamlessly in the background. You're not going to have to deal with patching things or approving things. It will just happen. And that reduces your time and your overhead in terms of managing devices. You can, and I do always recommend that every enterprise and every school always has a few devices, maybe even as much as 5%, 10% of devices, depending how many you have, in the beta channel, because that will give you kind of early sight of any particular issues that you might encounter. So it's useful to have some devices in the beta channel. I honestly, I have like for interest, I have one device in the dev channel. There's a whole load of crazy stuff goes on the dev channel. It's where you get the kind of bleeding edge technology stuff. And in the dev channel for Chrome OS, you get features that are really early releases. Sometimes you've got to enable them. But there's some interesting things happening there. There's also an interesting project that's going at the moment, which is about splitting out the Chrome browser from the operating system, which will mean that there'll be even longer life support beyond the current 8 years that you're getting with different chipsets on Chrome devices. You'll actually get even longer support for Chrome devices because they're going to split out the browser updates from the OS updates. So you'll still have a secure environment moving forward as they split those two parts separately on Chrome OS, which is a really interesting development. And some of that's going on in the dev channel just now. And as I say, updates are just happening in the background seamlessly.
Got a message from Ruben Yonkers who says he's running his own Chromebook in dev. So good to hear. Oh,
awesome. Brilliant. Yeah. And there's also you'll have great fun doing that. There's lots of interesting features you really get early sight of that you can leverage and use. A great another feature, which is that Google Workspace and the Chrome browser protects end users from doing silly things, because Google's going out there and surfing the web and indexing all of the content that's out there, categorizing it. It's got this tremendous index of pages and content, but that also identifies sites that are malicious or are inappropriate and such. So as part of that, if you go to a site that's Google's flagged as unsafe, it'll tell you, and that protects your employees from maybe going a step too far and making your data vulnerable.
Sure.
And of course, and with Chrome devices, you have multiple sources of applications and tools that you can run. So everything on a Chromebook is run inside a container. That's basically a sandbox that can't really interact with things outside of it. And you've got a variety of sources for running applications from. So you'll probably be aware, if you're a Chromebook user, you'll know that there's a Chrome web store where you can get extensions that you can deploy into your Chromebooks, Chrome devices to use. There's Play Protect, which is a feature of the Android environment, and that's proactively uses AI to scan Android apps in the Play Store for malware and for malicious content and such. So that's proactive scanning again happening in that environment. I remember in fact, all modern Chromebooks, I think for the last 2 years, will run Android applications. So that's another source of great programs that you can use on your Chrome OS devices. And
No, a couple of comments from Kim. Good to see Kim Nilsson again. He's just repeating what I think you said. Always a good idea to have some. He's saying quite a few devices in beta and maybe your own in dev. Yeah, that's something I highly recommend. And Charlie, like said, you can see problems before they become And Ruben Yonkers asks, what about performance for older devices? I noticed some of our older models not being able to keep up. Do you think this is because of older hardware or a newer version of Chrome OS?
So I suppose it depends whether I think there are updates of things over time. Devices just through some wear and tear will slow down a little bit over time as well. Some of the Chrome OS updates speed up the devices, but as we move on and we get into newer generations of processors, some of those older devices will sometimes struggle. And that happens right across all things.
Mentioned in his reply, like using Meet a lot. I mean, now, especially now in the COVID times, everyone's on Meet video chat a lot, and that can slow down some older devices. I've personally got some of the first Chromebooks, and everything still works. I've had them slow down. I haven't personally had a device that stopped working, but it is possible.
Yeah, and I think once you get beyond the support, and you'll know if you're using the enterprise upgrade or the education upgrade, management upgrades, you'll be able to see in your admin console when your Chrome OS devices are reaching end of life. And if they're getting to that end of life point, then you need to begin to think, right, we need to, deprovision that device, replace it with a new device, ideally. Certainly, you can run devices beyond their end of life, but when you get to that point, they don't get future operating system updates. They become less secure because of not getting those additional updates, and eventually they will they will fall over, and some of the features will start to fail in them eventually. Yeah.
Just a quick question, Grantley Sinclair, is there a Google representative for the Caribbean? I'm sure there is. Grantley, if you could just put in the chat what kind of thing you're interested in. Are you a business or a school? What kind of help do you need from Google? Again, we might not be able to help you, but we may. So please give us more information, and we'll see if we can help.
Yeah,
cool.
Grand. And just again, if you're using that management so that enterprise management licenses, the upgrades, or using the education one, you can set a vast array of policies on your devices. So you can control absolutely every facet of your Chrome OS device, whether the camera's on, whether you allow apps to access the camera, just whether you can use USB storage, whether you can attach USB devices, whole range of things that you can control, manage. Some of them you may not necessarily have a need to, but all those features are there. So you have great control of the Chrome OS devices right from the cloud. And again, particularly in these times, that reduces your need to go and physically visit devices and do maintenance. So that way, because all your Chrome OS devices can be managed really effectively from the cloud. And as we're talking about Chrome and Chrome OS, that's kind of highlighted the need that we've got even more demand now, not just for Chrome OS devices, but for that Chrome browser. And for the last year or so, we've had this ability to manage the Chrome browser on other device deployments. So through the admin console, you can get a token, which you can deploy through SCCM or deploy directly to a device, which through group policy, and you can use that token to register a particular browser in your admin console. And when you've done that, you can then manage extensions, manage presets on that browser, and control the update schedule and maintain your kind of privacy security as you go. So having, you now have the benefit of not only manage Chrome OS devices, but you can manage the Chrome browser and set all the requirements for that Chrome browser from your admin console, which is pretty awesome. Just to show you a little bit about how that looks, if I'm in my admin console here, and I can go through into my devices, and I've got this option here for managed browsers. And in here, I could generate a token. I can accept this. This is me. So this is generating a token that I can use to manage the browser. I'll revoke this when I'm finished. But this token I can download as a registry file, just install that. I can use there's a download file for Mac and Linux. And and I can use this token. And when this token is deployed to the browser then will appear as registered in my managed browser in the cloud, in my Google Admin Console. So I'll be able to see all the browsers in my enterprise that are registered through using that token. So it's a really useful way just to add a little bit more visibility of the Chrome browser. And I do thoroughly recommend, using Chrome browser management to do your presets, to control that environment a little bit more. So the experience for your users on Chrome OS devices and in the Chrome browser is seamless and same experience right across the piece.
Great.
So I've just showed you a little bit about that Chrome browser management, and this is just trying to show you a little bit more detail. Once you've got those browsers managed, you'll be able to see activity. You'll be in that browser, what OS the operating system is on and details and such. You'll also get noted. You'll be able to see the installed extensions, and you'll be able to kind of manage that Chrome environment just a little bit more than you can currently without having that browser management deployed. So, Dan, that's kind of some of the kind of key things I suppose I was wanting to talk about today, just around using Workspace, the kind of inherent security features that are built in, which are just everything is there that you need to protect your enterprise. Whether you want to go for full-scale physical security keys, you want to have multi-factor authentication enabled right across your organization. There's a whole range of options there that will secure your data, both proactively in terms of the proactive scanning and such that goes on into looking at Google Drive, looking at Gmail. All that information is scanned proactively to protect you and protect the people that you're working with, and making sure that your data is safe in the cloud. And I suppose it's one thing I would say about all my experience of using Google Workspace is that it hugely reduces that total cost of ownership, both for devices and platform. It saves so much time as administrators, technical administrators in enterprises and in education. You are time precious. You have so much demands on your time, and anything that reduces the amount of workload you have is a real win. And I've found this to be an incredible win in terms of the amount.
Obviously, there's the time saved on the central admin, the setup and stuff. But just if you think about when you're supporting individual Windows laptops, the amount of support and things that can go wrong with all the different applications is really night and day. And the fact that with a Chromebook as an admin, you can normally do a refresh and things without someone ever having to bring the device to you. You can do remote wipes and things. It's a lot more flexible on how you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of this actually, when you think about the real cost, the total cost of owning that platform and deploying the devices, it pays for itself in very little time. With the enterprise upgrades, plus switching to Chrome OS devices and using the enterprise platform, it is just a huge savings that you can achieve as an organization by taking this on board.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Charlie. It's I want to say a couple of things. Please, everyone watching, could you click on the like button and the subscribe? We would really, really appreciate it. It helps us with the YouTube algorithm, and most importantly, it encourages us and makes us want to do more of these. We're doing these every 2 months, but we may even do them more. So please, if you're watching this after and you've got a question, please just write your question in the comments. We'll come back and check, and we'll answer it. And if you need help, let us know. Charlie's available to come and help with technical setup, with migrations, with integrating systems. Let us know if you need help. That's what we specialize in with Apps Events. We'd love to help anyone. But again, thanks for watching. And again, if you have questions, please put them in the chat, put them in the comments, and we'll answer them.
Thank you so much for watching, and you can see that the next summit is going to be on 22nd of January. So we are looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Charlie. Thank you so much, Dan, and thank you so much for watching us. Thank you, and have a great day. Bye.